Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer from Jen Plays Solo, and in today's video I want to show you how to get into the world of the solo board game Final Girl. As you know, Final Girl is my favorite game to play, but when I started I also did some mistakes, forgot a lot of things while playing, and in this video I want to clear up some common mistakes and also give you some tips how you might defeat the killer a little bit easier. So let's get started. So what do you need to play Final Girl? You need two things. You need the Final Girl core box. The box includes the yellow victim meeples, the basic meeple for the killer and the Final Girl, also the health tokens and the final health tokens, and of course the basic action cards. Plus the 6 dice you need to make your horror rolls, a horror level token and a time token. It also comes with a rulebook and with a horror level tracker and the one for the extreme horror mode. You also need one of the feature films. These include the killer and also the location. The Camp Happy Trails feature film is usually the one that you start with, but you can start with any of them. Hans, the killer, has pretty basic rules, and the Camp Happy Trails doesn't have a lot of extra rules, so it's a good feature film to start with. But you can get any of the feature films depending on which theme you like, so you just go for it. Just remember, you need the core box and you need one feature film. You cannot play the feature film without the core box. So the next thing to remember is the killer only moves when you see the boot icon. So if there is no boot, then there is no move. During the killer phase, the killer does his killer action first, and usually there is no movement. For example, for Hans and Dr. Fried, they don't have a boot, so they don't move. They just attack in the space they are currently in. There are some killers that have a boot icon in the killer action. For example, the Poltergeist has one, so she's moving and then attacking. But just check if there is one on the killer phase and also on the terror cards. For example, on this terror card, the killer targets the Final Girl first and then moves because there's one boot, and according to the current bloodlust, you can tell how many spaces he moves, and then he's targeting and then attacking, but he's not moving again. And the Final Girl and the killer both have the black final health token, so whenever the Final Girl or the killer are on their last health token, you get one more dice. That's the Adrenaline Dice. So if Laurie only has one health left and I'm on a horror level of 4, I can roll 3 dice for the next horror roll. Same for the killer. If the killer is on his last one, you get another die. If the killer or the Final Girl revive and you get the white health token, you get, and you're on your last health again, you get another die. Another thing that you can do during the action phase, except for playing your action cards, is selling the action cards that are on your hand to gain some more time. For example, if I played a short rest into focus and I really need a long rest card and I only have 4 time at the moment, I can sell one of my cards in my hand and then gain 1 extra time. If you have to end the action phase, for example, because you have failed the Furious Strike and you see that X mark, you have to immediately end the action phase, so you cannot sell any cards because you're just going straight into the planning phase. If the last health token is not blank and the killer or the Final Girl can revive, the phase immediately ends. So for example, it was the action phase and I attacked Dr. Fried and he was on his last health. Then I look at the final health token, it still says 3 more hearts. the action phase immediately ends, so I cannot attack him again in this action phase. If the final girl is on her last health and she revives, the killer phase immediately ends. It doesn't matter if there was still a terror card to be played or some actions by the killer. There are some exceptions, for example, for the intruders. If you kill one of the intruders, you do the whole killer phase, and then at the end you check if the final health token is blank or if the killer has revived. Another thing that helped me a lot when I first started playing Final Girl and I lost my first few rounds against Hans was looking at the horror level. The lower the horror level, the more dice you get. So just keep an eye on this one. It can be handy, especially like the Disctraction card, because if you have a double success, you can lower the horror level by 2. And when you're in the green space, you can roll 3 dice to make a horror roll. And 3 dice obviously is better than just roll 2 or only 1 die. The next tip is don't underestimate the items that you can search for in the search spaces, because it's easier to kill the killer if you have an item that can do damage. Even if it's only like a knife, you can add 1 damage to all of your attacks, and also, for example, if you do retaliate. This will help you a lot to get the health down, especially with killers that have a lot of health. What I love about Final Girl is that you can mix and match the killer and the location. If you have 2 feature films, you can play the killer in his own location and also in the other location, and vice versa. So that adds a lot of replayability to the game, and it's really fun to try out the killer in another location because it will be different. Another thing that I'm really happy that I purchased it is the Final Girl playmats. The playmats come in a set of 2, so you have 1 for the locations and the killer and 1 for the action card. The playmats were the first thing that I purchased after I got my Final Girl core box and my first feature film. Everything has its space. It makes it a lot easier to set up everything, and I just really like the quality. So if you are getting into Final Girl and you play it a lot, maybe have a look if this is something that you might enjoy too. If you like to track your games, you can also buy the Final Girl Companion app. In the app, you can track all of your games, you can track your achievements, you can play the scenarios. You can also choose a random combination of killer, Final Girl, and the location. It also shows you the statistics of who's your worst killer, who's the best killer, which one is the worst location and the best location, and who is your best Final Girl. So these were my 10 tips how to get into Final Girl. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I see you in the next video. Bye.